Well, hello there, and welcome to The Last Ball Drops. It is me, it is Tom. Tom, how you doing? You enjoyed today's matches?
I have enjoyed today's matches. A few talking points for us to feast on tonight. And apologies for the delay and saying hello there. I just wanted to hear the famous welcome quote. The well hello there. Speaking to John before the stream, and I think he's convinced me I need to get myself one of those catchphrases that are quickly becoming associated with you. So hi, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing very well. I've had a very nice sort of day off from commentating on Talking Tennis after being on for what feels like 2 straight days.
Yeah.
John still owes me overtime.
We're waiting a long time.
I will probably be waiting a very long time. At this point, I'll take beer. But anyway, are you wearing? Is Ghost right? Are you wearing Fred Perry?
No, I don't know what he's talking about. It's actually a
Cock.
Scottish brand called Be Inspired.
Be inspired. Okay.
Two ex-footballers started it up here in Scotland. But do you know what? Fred Perry's associated with tennis and a bit of money, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, you say that. I mean, yeah, as Ghost is pointing out in the chat, Fred Perry was a little bit of a working class hero, actually. Obviously, he got his clothing line after he won Wimbledon and he made some money turning pro. But he's the fact that he was beating all the other British players and also various international players didn't necessarily go down well with the All England club at the time. But he was still the best British player and probably, I would say, the second best British player of all time after Mr. Andy Murray. Definitely the best English player of all time.
Yeah, I'm glad you finished with Andy Murray there.
No,
I mean is how much is a Fred Perry polo shirt these days?
Well, I've no idea.
So as I say, this is a lot cheaper than I think 40-50 pounds.
Have you seen the way that I dress, Tom? I'm not a stylish man.
I think you are. I think you're underselling yourself there, Nick. I think the hoodie and t-shirt look is still rocking it. So
well, we'll go with that. I might have to take the hoodie off because it's getting warmer than I expected.
Back to the tennis.
Back to the tennis, indeed. So yes, the last ball has dropped on centre court. There is some action still going on around the grounds, mostly in the juniors. I actually have on my screen the match involving Hannah Klugman and Isabel Lacey, which are two British hopes that are causing a bit of a stir in some sort of amongst home fans. But let's talk about what just happened, because I think we still probably need to digest the fact that Carlos Alcaraz just beat Holger Rune in straight sets. What was your take on that one? Does it live up to the hype?
No, shortly. I mean, look, I like these two young guys, and when the draw was made, a couple of days before it all kicked off, we all do it as tennis fans. We all go, right, what are the various different scenarios that could emerge, and this one was one that I was looking forward to, particularly. This is the one that I penciled out. I've mentioned before trying to convert friends and partner to tennis, and this was one of the ones I was texting early today going, listen guys, if yous aren't working or whatever, get this match on. And now they're going texting me and going, was that it? Is that what you were trying to hype up about? To be fair, in terms of Alcaraz and Rune, I think the last time, am I right in saying the last time they met was when Alcaraz pulled out last year in the semi-final? I don't think it was Paris. I think it was the one before that, Paris-Bercy. It was maybe the Swiss. Was it in
no, I think it was the Paris-Bercy tournament Alcaraz withdrew from.
Was it in the semi-final when he was a set down?
I'll check it.
So, I mean, yeah, I've just clocked that comment about it's all kicked off. So yeah, listen, I look forward to this one. It didn't live up to the hype. Even as watched the first couple of games, I'm thinking to myself, I don't think Rune is going to be able to damage him. Is going to be able to cause him too much problems. I actually now think about it. Think before the Berrettini match, I was actually more worried about Berrettini causing Alcaraz problems than I was Holger Rune. And this is Berrettini with no form whatsoever. But I just didn't feel it today. And I don't know if that's a sense of my kind of expectation. And you know what? We're all here for opinions, but my expectation, my hope for Rune has probably dipped slightly now. I know it's grass. I know it's not his favourite surface. But, after that Djokovic final at the end of last year, I'm thinking this guy is going to 2023 it the way that Alcaraz is 2022 it. And, you know, for a number of reasons, he's got to finals, he's won tournaments. But for something about me, I don't know if he's going to get to that level, Alcaraz. So yeah, it was a disappointing match. There wasn't a lot of breaks of serve. Alcaraz took his chances when they appeared. I kind of felt in the first set, both players were looking at like 15-30, love 30 on their serve, and then bringing it back. So there wasn't really too much, you know, break point chances. And I mean, it was a bit of a stalemate the first set. You know, I think they were at 3-0 in the tie break, and the BBC were showing a stat that they'd won 41 points each. So so at that point, you know, you're just thinking who has played these types of scenarios better. And of course, Alcaraz is what, 9 titles as a teenager, already a Grand Slam champion. He's played in the big moments. Holger Rune has been known to you know, not handle the pressure moments sometimes. On occasion can kind of lose the mentality of the rag a bit. So I didn't see any problems for Alcaraz, and you know, yeah, it was a bit of a, as John said, it was a bit of a damp squib, wasn't it?
I would like, John, I don't know if you can get the tweet up from Bastian, saying that in that first set, Alcaraz had to dig himself out of trouble a fair bit to win it. Now, given they won 41 points each, and sort of my memory of that first set, I think that Rune would have also had to dig himself out of trouble a fair bit as well. So I think that first set was very competitive, at least, or very close. I think what kind of surprised me a little bit, there you go, that's the tweet. The Alcaraz did have to fight, and he really, you know, you could tell from his celebration on winning the first set of how hard he had to fight for it. I was expecting a lot more baseline battles, a lot of movements around the court. That's what I've come to expect from these players. They're sort of almost both kind of Djokovic, Rafa-esque players, but it was a very serve-dominated affair, and actually both were attempting serve volley a fair bit. I think, obviously, you're right. Alcaraz did have the edge today. I'm still optimistic that this rival is going to kick off. By the way, that match they played was in Paris. It was the quarterfinal.
Quarterfinal, right? Okay.
And Alcaraz retired before they could play a second set tiebreak.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I was skeptical about it going 5. I thought it might go 4, but I did wonder, and I don't know whether that's something that you would think maybe played a part in this match, that Holger Rune had the physically tougher path through, given he went 5 with David Rybakina and a tough 4 with Grigor Dimitrov, and maybe that caught up with him today.
Yeah, no, I mean, it certainly did towards the end of that third, no doubt about that. And I think it all hinged, if he was to have a chance, he had to take that tiebreak in the first set. That was really his only hope, to kind of, you know, then, I mean, let's be honest, like, you know, I take Bastian's point about him having to dig deep. In that, there's only one break point, you know, and it's in the very first service game. So you could argue, yes, it has done. And as I alluded to, both players were often in the first set finding themselves 15-30 or love 30 down, and then they were basically winning the next 3 points, like you say, strong service performance by both. And it wasn't as if there was too much kind of, you know the types of games where there's a lot of deuces, a lot of back and forth. It was pretty much slow start to the service game, get their act together, win the service game. However, to kind of counter that of what I'm saying, you know, if you remember back to the French Open semi-final with Djokovic with Alcaraz, and it was quite apparent, and obviously we found out later it was because of the nerves. He was quite animated. Now Alcaraz doesn't really get that frustrated and animated, and there was a point in that first set, I think it was around about 4-4 where Alcaraz was verbal towards his box, and he was sitting there having a dig, having a moan at his game and at his level. And at that point, I'm sitting there going, okay, we know how it ended up last time. We've got a question about nerves in certain stages. You know, this is the first Wimbledon quarter. Well, not first Wimbledon for him, but the chance to get a first Wimbledon semi-final. Is this maybe repeating itself a little bit? I saw signs in that first set, but you know, he proved me wrong. I think that to answer your point, Holger Rune, the longer sets and the longer matches did catch up with him. And certainly in that third set, I noticed it. I mean, obviously we were at what 4-4 all, 4-5, I think. 4 all, and then in the second set, and then Alcaraz nicked it effectively. But yeah, I think for Holger Rune to have a chance there, I just think he had to win that first set tiebreak, and he just wasn't really in it. You know, like I think Alcaraz got the mini break quite early. Holger Rune broke a mini break back, and then Alcaraz then got. I think he was 4-2 potentially. So yeah, I think if Holger Rune just had to win that first set and hope that, you know, the pressure and the occasion maybe got to Alcaraz. I just don't see the all action game so far. I think he's maybe a year, maybe to answer your point. I know you're saying you still hold out hope that this will be the rivalry of the future. I just think if it was going to be that, it might be one of these rivalries where Alcaraz dominates. Because I think right now he's probably a year. I know they're the same age, but I think Alcaraz is right now is maybe a year, 2 years ahead of him.
Yeah, that's probably, I mean, like physically, yeah, in terms of development. I certainly sometimes think that Rune, I think Rune does seem to develop his game a little bit. I mean, he's very dynamic. He's a very competent baseliner, very confident getting to net. But I don't know, I'm watching him, and he feels a little bit Djokovic-esque to me watching him, to be honest. I don't know if you see some similarities in sort of, he's quite happy to kind of rally. Yeah. He doesn't necessarily hit deep every shot, but he's very effective when he needs to be.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. And I think with Alcaraz as well, I mean, you talk about Holger's, you know, his speed, his agility, and I think Alcaraz, I think now you've mentioned that, I think that was one of the frustrations. I think Alcaraz is, you know, he likes the drop shot. I think he's still working out the drop shot in grass. Like, you know, he's trying it maybe too often because a lot of in the past, you know, especially on clay, these drop shots are literally going over the net by millimeters and stopping dead. And it just seems with the drop shot, they haven't really been working as much. I mean, he hasn't been sailing through, but he's been winning eventually quite comfortably. But I think he's still trying to work out those drop shots. And I think a couple of times he tried the slice backhand drop shot or even the forehand slice. And Rune was getting up to it early in the first set, and I think that's maybe where the frustration was coming. So, yeah, I mean, I think I don't know where Holger goes. I mean, he's still very young, and I'm not writing him off by any means. And maybe I'm just basically been spoiled by the fact that at 19 Alcaraz was so good, and maybe I'm expecting that from every 19, 20-year-old now. And so maybe I'm unfairly comparing the two. But yeah, I wonder, you know. I'm just maybe not I'm not feeling it from Holger Rune right now where he can. I thought he was going to go and blast people off the court when I saw it, you know, at the tail end of last year in the indoor in Paris, and I've just not seen it this year. So yeah, there's a lot of work to go. I know you talk about physically, but I was thinking that watching that, I was like, this is a battle of, like, you know, the quad muscles. Both of them have got huge legs. When you look at the other station, and we'll come on to it. When you're looking at Christopher Eubanks and his build compared to these two guys in centre court, I was just like, whoa, because he's slender, that boy.
Oh, Medvedev as well, right?
Well, of course, yeah, of course. So you're seeing the two, Medvedev and Eubanks in one court, and then the other two in the other court. You're just looking, look at the difference here.
And yet, and then it ended up being the skinny ones who did the longer match. But
the more entertaining match as well, of course.
I think, I didn't see many sort of. I think the other thing about the Alcaraz Rune match that didn't quite deliver was there weren't as many epic rallies between the two, which again, their sort of physicality and their movement-based games you would kind of expect. But maybe that is down to Rune just trying to conserve some energy, and maybe if we saw them sort of when, as I said, things have developed a little bit with their games, it's going to be a little bit more epic. A la what we've been getting with Alcaraz and Sinner. We've obviously been talking about where Rune goes. I mean, where does Alcaraz go? Because Alcaraz, is he looking as good on grass as you thought he would, or better?
No, he's listen, I don't know if it's better, but I was confident that he could take his game onto the grass and, you know, be a big time player. Now, when I say big time player, the big question is, can he take Djokovic in grass? That's what you're really asking. Because his game is more than likely going to, because of his talent, he's more than likely going to beat most players over a 5-set match in grass. So it's whether or not he can win that ultimate pass that ultimate test, which is Djokovic in grass, and which is, we're getting closer to that. I did expect it. I mean, I watched him at Queens. I watched him quite intensely in Queens because I wanted to find out. I knew that I would potentially be talking on platforms like this, and I wanted to see if I could see the game there. And I just think he's got so much talent. He has worked it out. I think, you look at the Berrettini match, some of the ground strokes. He's setting the points up. He likes to kind of set that like inside out forehand. Some of the shots. He's been pretty much in, if not one of the top 5 the shots of the day in every match that he's been playing, that Wimbledon would been featured, because he's just so good. I don't know if you differ from that, if he has brought the game to grass, but I think he's on the right trajectory for me.
I think he's matching my very, very high expectations. I always thought Alcaraz on grass was going to be a force. I thought that, despite what happened last year with Jannik Sinner, I just thought that was Jannik Sinner having an amazing day.
Yeah.
And also another young player who's showing that they can play their best on grass. So with that in mind, I kind of expected Alcaraz to be great again. Like the drop shot, critical on grass. The serve worked really well. The versatility of his game, it all should fit together. So the Queen's win was not a surprise. The fact that he has, got his way through the draw to the semi-finals with aplomb is no surprise to me. So, but I know there were some people doubting at one point.
I think what's quite telling, and obviously we're looking back in hindsight, but I go back. Was it Rinderknech? He was playing in Queens, and he was a set down in the first round. I just wonder, you look at a warm-up event and you say, it's just a warm-up event. But he came back from that match and he went on to win that tournament. So it was an extra 4 matches that he played on grass. And I just wonder, we just look at the minuscule margins, and I just wonder these 4 matches coming into this event have helped him. He's not had the hardest draw, obviously, by being the number 1 seed, but he's playing an informed, I say informed, but a rejuvenized Berrettini who, when I watched him against Zverev, I was like, what is going on? This is like 2021 Berrettini. He blasted Zverev off the court. And so, he has had challenges. There has been challenges. There hasn't been a smooth run. I think it was it Jarry? Again, a great test for him. It was like the perfect match for him, because this was a guy, Nicholas Jarry he played?
Third round. Yeah, Jarry threw a lot of crazy stuff at him that he had to deal with.
Yeah, and I think that kind of stuff has been setting him up. It's like, and I'm not poo-pooing Jarry at all. I'm just saying, you look at football and they have the pre-season friendlies to try and get them ready for the big test. And I don't know if these matches, the Queen's matches, the Queen's run, the previous rounds matches are now, he's building momentum now, and he's getting confident and more confident with every match.
I think he is. I think playing a good warm-up tournament and like getting at least a couple of wins under your belt is necessary preparation before, whether it's on clay or grass or American hard. You kind of need that, but it's kind of critical on grass, particularly given how little they play on it. And I think also Queen's Club is probably the best grass court preparation tournament for the men.
I would say. For a comment. You would say more so, because I know a lot of the top players obviously go to Halle, but
Halle's a quicker pace than Queen's. I think they've got bigger facilities, which is probably why a lot of the top players go there. But they also, the grass is quicker there than Wimbledon, so that's why you have this Halle curse.
Yeah, of course. Well, I was going to say, why do more players not, when they have that choice? And I know that there's incentives to play in different events, but you just wonder, looking at historically players, why they don't consider that and, think about, right, the conditions to Queens and conditions of Wimbledon they're going to be more similar than Germany in London. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I think some of it is to do with the fact that probably Russian players don't feel very welcome over in the UK, so maybe they're kind of avoiding the UK tournaments. And we've obviously got at least a couple of Russians in the top 10. Djokovic doesn't really play any warm-ups because he doesn't need to. So really it then comes down to personal preference. We did obviously get a few top 10ers coming to Queen's this year, Alcaraz and Rune. Look how well they did. Compared to, I think the only Halle player left is Yannick Sinner. But the others are a bit of a, and yeah, Casper Ruud, of course, doesn't need to get a grass court warm up in either. But yeah, so I think I would err on that, but it did depend on what they're being offered. I wouldn't be surprised if we start getting more and more players coming over, especially given, we've seen, Berrettini doing well at Queen's, and doing well at Wimbledon.
Andy Murray in the past.
Murray, I mean, look at the other Queen's champions, Feliciano Lopez.
Did Nadal not do the double? I think
he did. Nadal and Murray are the only players in recent years to have done the double. Right. But then, of course, no one else had the big fours won Wimbledon for the last 20 years.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, Berrettini, Dimitrov as well. That's a player who did well. Sam Querrey back in the day.
Pickleballs, Sam Querrey.
Yes. Right. Speaking of tournament warm-ups, I have to say that traditionally, Mallorca has not been a very good grass court warm-up. The champions there very rarely go on to do well at Wimbledon. It's very, very different conditions to Wimbledon, or even further off than Halle. However, the Mallorca champion, Chris Eubanks, was a tiebreak away from reaching the Wimbledon semi-finals, and I could not believe what I was watching at that point.
I mean,
did you back that, Tom?
Well, so listen, it was just like I said to you at the start of the day, looking forward to the two ladies' quarterfinals. I think they're looking good. To me, the Medvedev Eubanks match was the kind of least watchable, like in terms of like the competitiveness of it. But and then after, I was trying to kind of keep on top of everything. I've been trying to take tips from you and making sure I've got screens everywhere in my house. But then, so watch the first set. I thought, okay, this is going to be, coast. It's going to coast it. It's just a level too far for Chris Eubanks. And then, you follow the score. You look at the second set. I mean, that second set that he played, that was one of the most one-sided sets of tennis, and he was. There's so many thoughts were going through my head. I watched the third set as well, and I'm thinking, I don't know how Medvedev is going to come back from this. I just couldn't work out because it looked as if he's talked about his punditry before Eubanks, all right? And I mentioned it when we were on the stream a couple of nights ago. How I'm sure I've seen a quote somewhere where he said that he's been using when he's in tight spots in matches to think about, okay, what would I be like commentating, or what would I be suggesting if I was watching my match right now? And he basically takes his kind of tips from that and works out how to problem solve mid-match, because he thinks, right, what would I be doing my punditry with right now?
Wow.
And it looked as if he'd done that and thought, and I was wondering, I wonder if he did punditry when Kyrgios played Medvedev, and he basically just serve volleyed him off the court, because like for two sets, Medvedev, every return was just a serve volley. I think there was a point where it was something like 27 out of 30 serve volley points Eubanks had won, and it was across 4 or 5 games. Obviously, then you had Medvedev losing the plot a little bit, and fair play to him for staying in it mentally. I mean, he was getting quite animated with the umpire. There was the incident with the hitting the ball and potentially hitting the camera woman, which we can come to as well. But I think Medvedev did really well to stay in there. It was an amazing match in terms of Eubanks. I didn't know. I mean, I've not watched a lot of him before, but he did so well to keep the crowd going. He was applauding crowd members when they were catching the ball. He was fist pumping even when he was 5-1 down in the fifth set. But I think what I took from the game was Medvedev. I think he's got a very, and you guys may have spoke about it before, but I think Medvedev's serve is very underrated, and I think Medvedev basically just got his eye in with the serve, and that's how he basically managed to build momentum again in the fourth set. He basically said to himself, I'm just going to win my service game here, and if I get anything off the Eubank serve, I'll take it. And if this has to go to a tiebreak here, I'll take it, because in the fifth set, I don't think this guy can play this level. And, that's what worked out. He's a smart guy, Medvedev, but I think that's what he was thinking, because at the end of the... I mean, he came back into it a little bit in the third set, but, for a set and a half, set 2 and half a set 3, I was thinking there's no way back here from Medvedev.
Interesting. There's a lot of points I want to come back on that.
Yeah.
I think the latter point is I was convinced it was a purple patch from Eubanks. I mean, he was playing the ideal strategy for Medvedev, which was rushing him as much as possible. That's the way to beat Medvedev.
Yeah.
Come into net, or play in a way that sort of doesn't enable him to get comfortable just running from side to side on the baseline, just getting everything back. I think Eubanks, by the end, kind of ended up falling into that, because he clearly didn't have the energy to maintain what was required. And Medvedev, I agree with you, like the way he mentally locked down, particularly in set 4, got it, got the tie break, played the better tie break, and just got the job done, was, very much top player mentality. I'm interested to think, why do you think Medvedev's serve is underrated? Because most of the people I speak to don't underrate it.
I'll tell you why. It's probably this. We've had a few recently. It might not have been on streams with yourself, but when we have the discussions on the stream, it's like I just can't remember Medvedev's name coming up, and I just at the time I'm thinking to myself, why is that? Now that might just be me, because I think Medvedev's serve was one of the main factors of him going on that run, where I think he won, three tournaments back. Was it 3 tournaments he won back to back? Rotterdam, was it Rotterdam, Miami, maybe? Or
it was like an indoor run, yeah.
And so, I mean, basically, it's just basically when we've had discussions on Talking Tennis, people have been throwing up Taylor Fritz. One of them, we were talking about the other night, even, talking about Djokovic's first serve being inch for inch. What's that, sorry?
Yeah, I found it. Rotterdam, Qatar, Dubai.
There you go. And I think the serve was a big part of that, because I think if you find those stats as well, he didn't lose a lot of service games. And obviously he's a great returner. I mean, even if he stands in Timbuktu to return half these things, he's great at returning serve. So with that serve, I just think, like you say, he locked down mentally, and he put the work in the serve, and he knew, if I can serve this out, I don't think this guy can keep this level up in the fifth set. You see when he's on court interviews afterwards, Medvedev's a very witty guy, a very smart guy, and I think that kind of helps you at tennis, because tennis is all about outsmarting your opponent, and I just kind of felt an element of that in that match, in terms of the experience helped him as well. And I think for Eubanks, for the second and third set, he was just getting carried in the crest of a wave by the court one crowd. So yeah, I can see what you mean by. But I just thought, in terms of the serve volley, I just thought, how does Medvedev get out of this? Because he's already lost a match to someone like Kyrgios, who was just serve volley and had no shame in just going, I'm going to serve volley you off this court.
And her catch at Wimbledon 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just thought, Medvedev hasn't in the past managed to work his way around this. Will he do it on this occasion? But in terms of going on the lockdown, like you say, I think it was impressive by the Russian.
Yeah, it's definitely impressive. I guess it depends on who you talk to, because I know if I talk to someone like, Shrihari is a Daniel Medvedev fan, so he's going to rate everything Medvedev does. But I think if you spoke to someone like Owen, who doesn't come on very often, or Vunch or Damien, they'd probably say, Medvedev's serve is one of the main strengths of his game, and I would agree with that. Like,
he's a top 5 in the men's side. Would you say top 5 in the men's side?
5 on the men's side. Ooh.
Because that's my point. What I'm saying, maybe
I don't. It depends on how good his spot serving is, and I'm not sure.
I think maybe underrated was maybe the wrong term. What I'm saying is when we talk about the best servers on the ATP tour, I just don't hear his name as much as I hear others, is my point. Even for instance, we were talking about Djokovic and, that tweet from Mark Petrie the other night about being the one of the best first servers in history. And then we kind of had a discussion about, best servers in the game right now, and, different names were getting pulled up. Medvedev's name didn't come up. And that's maybe where my thinking had come from.
Yeah, I would say, he didn't get mentioned, and that's a fair point. Maybe it's because I don't know how his spot serving is. It's not something I think of with his serve, but it is a very, very effective serve. And he
was rushing as well. I think in terms of he was I was actually thinking about this before we came on. The speed that both players were going at, and Medvedev, I think at one point the umpire hadn't even called the score, and he was wanting to get going. And sometimes that kind of says to me, he's pissed off here. Like, he just wants to get going. Like, he doesn't like the crowd. He doesn't like his opponent. Doesn't like the umpire. And then I was thinking, I was trying to look up in terms of, is there any notable 5-set match? I mean, I think that one was under 3 hours for a 5-set match.
In the modern era, no. If you go back far enough, most 5-set matches were 3 hours. But
that one was 2 hours 58 minutes today. So it was played at some pace, and so I just wondered, in terms of
both of them have massive serves.
Yeah,
so that would be why.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of the stats of it, I think how many aces and non-returnables were there? I think quite a few.
Yeah. Have you got them up?
I'm trying to pull them up. So Medvedev had 28 aces. Eubanks had 17.
That's mad.
And I'm just saying, Medvedev won 86 points in his first serve, 124 points in his serve.
Eubanks came to the net 67 times. That's exactly the strategy you need to beat Daniil Medvedev. But
did you see the stat? Did you see the stat about Eubanks?
No.
In that match, he has surpassed Andre Agassi's winners, like hitting winners.
Really?
Record. Yeah, 317.
In one tournament.
In one tournament. Now, if you're thinking about it, this is the quarterfinals. Agassi won it in 92. So, Agassi had 2 more extra matches to even get to that record. So the fact that this guy Eubanks has come along, got to the quarterfinal. I mean, this stat was pulled out midway through the 5th set. So that final number will be something,
I mean, he hit 74 in the total in the whole match.
74 winners.
In the winners, yeah, whole match.
Right, so he's probably hitting that, roughly that every match he's played, considering he's played, quite a few 4 or 5 setters.
And actually, Medvedev also hit 52.
Well, there you go. I mean, there wasn't long rallies.
No,
it was just winner fest.
And that feels like a very un-Medvedev match. Almost like it forced Medvedev to kind of go for his shots a bit more, maybe.
Yeah, because you're bang on the money, aren't you? Like, Medvedev's match is like, I'm just off the top of my head, he's played Zverev about 40 times this year, and those matches are, just hit
grind fest.
Yeah, and this just wasn't that. So, I mean, I didn't know how. It just shows you the beauty of tennis, like we talked about earlier on. Chris Eubanks, he's a better man than me. Very slender, but the power he can get, both the backhand and the forehand, it wasn't impressive. And I wanted to ask you, Nick, coming on to this, do you think now this is a kind of flash in the pan, or do you think he can take this onto other surfaces going forward? He's 28, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's definitely going to be a force on American hard. He showed that in Miami. I think he's going to be like we've had a few sort of late bloomers like Aslan Karatsev or Kevin Anderson.
Yeah, good shout.
Coming through. Kevin Anderson's probably the better comparison. I think we could see him in the top end of the tour for the next couple of years. I mean, like, he's top 30 now. If he'd won this match, he'd have gone top 20. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 20 by the end of the year. And I think he should be able to maintain it. Clay may not be his best service, but he did get some decent wins on that over the course of the season. I think he's definitely going to be a name we keep an eye out for in draws for the next sort of 2 years, I'd say.
Yeah. And in terms of, I mean, I think you're right. I think I'm going to hold you to the top 20 because it is very competitive out there, and there is so much talent. But I think it's a fair shout. I mean, who am I to dismiss his chances, considering he's just. I mean, he tried to qualify in 2018, 2019, 2021, and 2022. Failed every time in Roehampton, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then first time ever playing the main draw at Wimbledon and getting to the quarterfinals, and being points away from beating the world number 3. It was impressive. In terms of Medvedev, I mean, Matthew makes a great point here about the semi-finals. I mean, before we move on to the ladies' side of things, we've got 2, blockbuster semi-finals to look forward to. I'm so pleased about that semi-final lineup just because it feels like a Grand Slam semi-final lineup.
Now, be honest, Tom, did you predict that lineup?
No.
Really?
No. I don't think Medvedev would get this far because I think he'd. I don't know. I had a feeling Medvedev should be a natural grass quarter because he's, what's the most used term for Medvedev? Swashbuckling. It's just, but he hasn't got this far before. Obviously, there's been issues, like you say, in terms of like last year he wasn't here. He had somebody who was rushing him, like Hurkacz, who is an actual grass quarter. So Medvedev, I just didn't give a chance, especially after the way he left the French after winning Rome. I think it was it Rome he won?
Rome.
And then so I just thought, maybe he's ran out a little bit of steam. I thought Alcaraz would be here. Yes, I suppose. Okay, yeah. No, now I'm thinking about it. Probably Medvedev was the only one that I didn't think, and that's probably because I'm thinking Andy Murray. Like I genuinely had hopes that Andy Murray was going to get to a last 8. I genuinely did.
You and a lot of other Brits.
So yeah, I mean, maybe it's hope rather than that much optimism. Do you know what I mean? So it's,
I get it.
It's the heart ruling the head.
Note to self. So those of us in like the Popcorn Talking Tennis team have got a fantasy league on TNS where which if you're not in it, I will send you a link for it. So you can join in time for the US Open.
I see how bad my predictions are. Well,
actually, you got 3. Most people got the same sort of 3 out of 4 lineup. But a lot of people went for Murray or Korda.
Yeah, Korda. I'm a favourite Korda.
Yeah,
Ashton, I'm a favourite for this tournament, Korda.
Yeah, didn't make it. But there were 2 people who did predict this. These 4 in the semis.
Nice.
I was one of them. Shahuri was the other.
Please be being smug to the others.
Oh, I'm going to be the smug. But actually, the Alcaraz Medvedev semi-final is going to decide who wins it because Shahuri has Medvedev winning that match, and I have Alcaraz winning that match.
Right. Okay.
And
so let's discuss that.
Both have Djokovic winning the tournament.
Yeah. Well. Okay. So, as Matthew's point, then what can Medvedev do to try and beat or try and overcome Carlos Alcaraz?
I think Matthew's got a good point that maybe Medvedev does need to play a bit more aggressive because clearly his game style didn't work in Indian Wells. Alcaraz walked all over him in Indian Wells. Indian Wells is a slower surface, though. I think what is that? Because Alcaraz has got the speed, he's got the agility to mix things up, but he's not going to try and net rush Medvedev as much. Maybe. I think. What does he have to do? I think he's got to be serving really well. He's got to serve. Better than he did today. He's got to keep his first serve percentage up. Alcaraz is a great returner. He's got to be willing to go for shots and move Alcaraz out of court. That's not a guarantee against Alcaraz because Alcaraz can run everything down. But I would say, maybe that aggressive game plan is his best hope, and maybe Eubanks has given him something to think about.
And in terms of Carlitos, what does he have to do? Anything spectacular in terms of change anything that
rush Medvedev, move him up and down the court, not just side to side. I think deploy his game as best he possibly can, and he should win it.
Do you think players, in terms of, are players smart enough to go into? That sounds terrible, but what I'm saying is, do you think Alcaraz would be going away with his team, looking at the Medvedev Eubanks match, seeing what Eubanks was doing for 2 sets, and then going, right, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to implement it, but you've got more talent that you can maintain it for longer.
How tall is Alcaraz? 6. He's exactly 6 foot, right? Yeah, he's exactly 6 foot. I've got it up because I've still got his head-to-head with Runa up.
I thought you just looked at your Alcaraz poster that you've got in your wall.
The life-size cardboard cutout. No, there wouldn't be enough space next to the one of Andy Murray. No, wait, that's Scott who has that.
Right, yeah, fair enough. I've heard that.
So he's not as big as Eubanks or Hurkacz. So net rushing will work to an extent, but he doesn't have the length on his limbs to necessarily pull that off as well as the others. So I think that would be the main risk. Is he's a little bit more vulnerable to being passed compared to the other two.
Yeah. And do you think him playing these, like, if he continues to try and play the drop shots that haven't been coming off as well, Medvedev's got the pace for a big man to get there?
Medvedev's movement is a key part of his game. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then the other semi is a much chance for Sinner, 2 sets up last year. Many people writing him off already, but is he a better player than he was 12 months ago?
Yes, but Djokovic knows what's coming.
So I think it'll be simpler, like a more comfortable victory.
I think he'll go 4.
4. I think that I would echo that.
Yeah, I think that's how I think it's going to go. But obviously, that's not till Friday. We've got a little cheeky
tomorrow.
Yeah. No,
I'm just saying tomorrow's. I'm going on, but are we going on to tomorrow and the semi-final lineup after today's games?
Yeah, I mean, so let's have a look at the women's matches. So, is it fair to say that the biggest, I'd say the main match of the women's tour was that Jabeur Rybakina rematch, which went 3 sets.
Yeah,
Jabeur winning it pretty much by taking control of that match, I would say, and kind of out Rybakina-ing Rybakina in a lot of ways.
I mean, I was shocked. I was surprised. I mean, look, I know Jabeur is a talented girl, but after that first set and the fact that she'd been serving for it, we've all seen this rodeo before. We've all watched this episode before. You're thinking at that point after Rybakina had nicked it, you're thinking she could collapse here, or it'll just be a case of Rybakina will hold her serve until 4-4 and then nick hers and then win it 6-4. I was pleasantly shocked and pleasantly surprised because I like Ons Jabeur. I think she's very, very talented, as I said. And some of the tennis, some of the down the line winners, she was putting away, and she had a swagger about her. I mean, there was a point. I think she was 15-30. She was already 3-1 up, maybe 2-1 up with a break in the final set. She'd obviously won 6-4. It's anyone's game at that point. I know she's a breaker, and then I think she drilled a return and just swaggered from ad court to deuce court, just pure looking at the crowd. Just this is me. Do you know what I mean? With the Conor McGregor swagger, effectively. It was really good to watch. She was putting in all the tricks that she usually does. I think even the match point, there was like all sort of slice forehands coming in. I was really, really impressed by her today. I'll tell you about what I think she'll do in the semi-final, but yeah, I just thought it was a nice kind of arc in terms of what happened last year. She's admitted that she hasn't been able to watch it back.
Don't blame her.
The devastation, and she maybe thought, there was times, she hasn't been able to find that form, the highs of the momentum that she had last year. It seems as if after Wimbledon she took a bit of a dip. So I'm really happy for her, and I thought she was very, very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, funny enough, I was in a bit of a Twitter debate with someone earlier as to whether Ons Jabeur won it or Rybakina lost it.
Oh, right.
I am of the view that Ons Jabeur won it.
Oh, I would agree with you. I'd back you up, Nick. I'd back you up. Who was he? Who was this person on Twitter? And I'll find
some guy called Rick Marcinet.
Oh, right, big Rick. I'm coming for you.
But yeah, I think he basically doesn't rate Ons, essentially. But Ons, I think, she was hitting winners. She was hitting flat. She was placing the ball in the right spots. And frustrating Rybakina and forcing errors. I think that Rybakina's unforced error count was pretty low for most of that match until maybe the final set when everything kind of fell apart a bit. But that was out of frustration of what she was dealing with.
Yeah.
she did. I agree with you. I did think after that first set, Rybakina might close this out, and because she's nicked a set, but Ons regrouped and snatched that second set when Rybakina sort of faltered in the last game on her serve, and yeah, it was a great battle. Ons's winners were absolutely brilliant. She didn't need to use her guile and her variety as much, although we saw plenty of it, and it was still wonderful. Yeah, it was interesting when she said after in her post-match interview on court, she was like, "Why? If I could swap the results from this year to last year, I would."
Yeah, so that.
And I think part of it's like, yeah, you could. She could have finished the job last year, but they always go 3 sets. These two, when they're both healthy. I would imagine it's going to be similar battles again going forward. And then that's most people's title pick now out, Rybakina.
Yeah, but I mean, it just shows you tennis, doesn't it? Jesus, it's just it's one of the reasons why everybody listening and watching, we enjoy this game so much. Like in terms of Ons Jabeur, I think she's now starting to be one of these players that you'll always start to associate with Wimbledon, just because she comes to life at Wimbledon. Obviously a finalist last year. I mean, leading up to the tournament, I'm just checking out now. She lost early in Berlin on grass. She lost early to Camila Giorgi at Rossi, Eastbourne, sorry. So, you're just thinking, this Wimbledon's come maybe a wee bit too early for her to get back to that kind of level. And she proves us wrong. Obviously, Rybakina, we had this mystery virus, but she looked like, Katie Boulter, I know is maybe not playing, and no disrespect to Katie Boulter, but she's maybe not playing the same kind of tennis as Rybakina, but Rybakina looked, on fire for those 2 sets, and you thought, maybe she's building momentum. And going into it, I had Rybakina as favourite. You may have disagreed, but I had Rybakina as favourite.
I did too.
Yeah. And then, she was the tournament favourite, wasn't she? But yeah, again, it was good to see. I don't know what happened, but she did obviously majorly fade.
If you see the preview show that I did on WTA Weekly with Jack, we were having a debate over whether Rybakina was the favourite or Sabalenka was the favourite.
Right. Okay.
And I was all on Team Rybakina.
Right. And what was it? What was giving you that belief? Like, in terms of, because she was the defending champion, she'd been there, done it.
Defending champion, the way she won it last year. I thought she should have recovered from the virus by this point. And that Vekic loss in Berlin was actually pretty good in retrospect. Like, she still played she was outplayed by Vekic. She was having a very, very good day. And she didn't really crumble. And to be fair, she was outplayed by Ons Jabeur, who was having a very, very good day today. So I think it was just, I had that confidence that maybe this was going to be a player who has a special relationship with Wimbledon. And all the stats was showing that. I mean, she'd won 15 out of her first 16 matches at Wimbledon, now 15 out of 17. I think that was probably the reason why I was going for her. I just felt like, and I kind of like the idea of, the WTA Big Three getting the first 3 slams in the year to get a super showdown going into the US between the 3 of them.
That'll be good. That'll be tasty. I like that. I like that thought.
It's not going to happen now, but I think there'll still be a bit of a showdown. I think Rybakina's still going to go in there with something to prove. But I guess what we'll have to see. I mean, interesting, if Ons Jabeur wins the title, she will go back up to the world number 3 ahead of Rybakina.
Right. Well, I only knew the stat of Sabalenka. If she wins the event now, she can be world number 1.
She just needs to get to the final.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So she playing the semi-final match is basically against Jabeur is for the world number 1 for her.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, if you ask,
I thought it was the winner.
I'm just going to check it now.
Absolutely. I mean, while you do that, I was going to ask, did you see quite funny in this match that the umpire's voice was getting loved up by the crowd?
Kaida Nuni, has a very distinct voice, but I think that's the first time a crowd's actually reacted to that. I'm going to guess that someone very drunk got the giggles, and then the entire crowd seemed to follow.
Well,
that's my only theory.
funnily enough, because I was going to throw you a wee curveball question in this, and ask you in terms of your personal preference, which umpire has the most soothing voice for you,
Well, it's
Nick?
still it's kind of uni.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because I actually looked him up beforehand, and in 2017, with the Wimbledon coverage by the Daily Mirror here, there is a story about Cadder being called the Barry White of tennis, due to his soothing voice, and it was because of a match between Johanna Konta and Simona Halep.
That match from a few years back.
In 2017, and I think the Wimbledon crowd did the same. They just seemed to fall in love with his voice. So yeah, I just thought that was quite a quirk to proceedings. Every time he would go 30-40, he was getting a laugh.
Found it. Yeah, can confirm if she wins tomorrow, Aryna Sabalenka will be the world number 1.
Okay, nice. And so let's then go on to Sabalenka. The first match of the day, well, the one that kicked off at the start of the day. Yeah. What Nick is the WTA guy, WTA power ratings. What was your take on the Sabalenka stuff then?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, I thought if Sabalenka had an off day, Keys would be the one to pounce. It ended up being the other way around. But it was basically a battle of the power plays and who was best at that game style. And Sabalenka was just blowing Keys off the court in set 1. Credit to Keys, she did fight back in set 2, but then let a load of unforced errors creep in when she was a break up in the second, and then Sabalenka ran away with it, basically. Yeah. Sabalenka was the better player throughout, and I would say she's been looking stronger and stronger as this tournament's gone on, and that match kind of showed it. There still is a little bit of a wobble in there, but yeah, that was my reading of it, is that Keys' game plan, if she'd execute, it was able to keep up with Sabalenka, but not for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Not the level Sabalenka was playing at.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree more in terms of Sabalenka. I was blown away by how she was hitting that ball, and for me, I can't see anyone. If she keeps that level, especially the first set, it was just it was delicious tennis in terms of like the power, the precision. She was mixing it up with slice backhands as well. She was in total control. She had 4 break points in the first game of the match. I mean, you could argue Keys didn't look right at the start. She had a couple of medical professionals helping her out. She took a couple of tablets, and then maybe that kind of helped her out to try and get a foothold in the match. But yeah, Sabalenka just looked unstoppable. Like even if Swiatek was in the tournament still, and we had a semi-final showdown with Rybakina as well, I would be sitting there going like that. Nobody's stopping Sabalenka if she can hit that level. The only person that can beat Sabalenka is Sabalenka. So I mean, obviously, like you say, I think Keys had a chance. She wasn't completely out in that second set. She was 40 love up though. She was 40 love up, and to try and consolidate that break. I think was she 4-2? No, she wasn't even 4-2. She was 3-2.
4-2. 4-2.
Was it 4-2 with a break?
And she had 40 love at 4-2 as well.
Yeah, that's my point. And then I think she even served a couple of double faults. I thought the set, I had the stats earlier. I'll maybe try and pull them again. For me, a tail of the tape was in terms of the second serve. I think every time she had to hit a second serve, Keys, Sabalenka was on top of it straight away, and there was numerous return winners by Sabalenka, and I just thought it was really, really good tennis. I thought there was a minor slip, that break of serve, but as always, I just thought she was by far and away the better player.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that. I think we know where we're at. Yeah. With that, which means I think we're at that stage now where we need to look at tomorrow, because it's the semi-finals day in the women's tournament. I am going to be covering both matches.
Wow. Okay. Now, will you be able to contain your excitement for Svitolina?
Svitolina against Vondrousova.
Yeah, I know that.
That's the first matchup.
You're sure you and Isabel, we're big, watching Azarenka stuff the other night. And Svitolina, I take it you're in the Svitolina camp for this one. You want the fairy tale to continue?
Yes. I think she does have the emergency story. I think she's probably in the better form out of the two players. I think she will win regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's a little bit of me that as the Swiatek fan who wanted to lose to a finalist. So it's like someone who had a great day. So
you always want to say, "Oh, at least they lost to the winner or the finalist," don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Which she usually does. I think I would back Svitolina tomorrow. I think she's going to be high on confidence. She's had the tougher draw. She's hitting that forehand pretty aggressively, probably more aggressively than a lot of the other players that Vondrousova would have dealt with so far, with the exception of Kudermetova and Bushkova. I know she's played some aggressive players, but it's a very different kind of aggression. It's much more precise than sort of maybe someone who's going for a bit more power on it. But she's more willing to get into cat and mouse points as well. I do wonder if Vondrousova is struggling a bit more physically, and I think the crowd will be fully behind Svitolina. And whilst I think Swiatek managed it very well, like she said in her press conference, she didn't notice if there was a volume difference. But I think if there's a clear volume difference, I think it's going to bother Vondrousova.
Right, and then you think that will then affect her game, impact her game then?
I could see her going, I'm the underdog, why aren't you rooting for me? Like, maybe, I don't know. But I also think obviously Svitolina's got that grass court pedigree as well. Like, on paper, Svitolina should be the favourite, but Vondrousova has beaten some tricky players. She's played some really, really good tennis so far. And she's been to a Grand Slam final before, whereas Svitolina hasn't. Svitolina's the only one of the 4 semi-finalists who actually hasn't made a Grand Slam semi-final, which is crazy to think, given that she's won the WTA finals and is a former world number 3.
Yeah, no, when you put it that way. So you're going for Svitolina then? You're in 2 or 3?
I think it'll go. I think, because I'm not that confident in it. Well, I am relatively confident in it, but I think Vondrousova will cause her headaches. I'm going to go Svitolina 3. Okay,
lovely stuff.
What about you, Tom? Come on, let's go. Let's hear it from you.
I want the fairy tale to continue. You and Isabel left a mark in me because I think, I'll be honest, I think I wanted Azarenka. I just because I've grown up with Azarenka. Back in the day, I think you mentioned that when the Williams sister were about, Azarenka was always the hope to try and maybe cause a little bit of a ruffle. So I've kind of followed her career since then. So I've probably but saying that, I think I caught the bug after that match, and I want the fairy tale to continue. So
very similar to me with Swiatek match.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'll go Svitolina in 3.
Yeah. Okay. So we think Svitolina in 3. It's going to be tough, but the fairy tale. We are hopeful the fairy tale continues, and we're expecting it.
I just want to see Mo Fields in the box in a Wimbledon final, just pure like loving life.
Oh yeah, wonder what they're going to do with the kid, because the kid's like under 1 still, so they probably can't bring him.
He's got a papoose on watching the Wimbledon final. That would be like the iconic image of Wimbledon 2023.
If that child wakes up during the match, though, they're not going to be happy.
No. Actually, are they not allowed babies in or something? Because they're like,
I don't think so. No.
There you go. So Daddy will be at home then. I think babysitting.
Yeah, he might prefer that actually, so he's not doesn't have like his nerves broadcast the entire world.
Yeah. He's like the most animated, emotional man ever, man. He would just not be able to like keep himself.
We often imagine ourselves as players on centre court, like being in those finals. So, like, tennis fans sometimes do. I know I used to pretend that when I was growing up and thought maybe have a go. Tom, if you let's say in a completely different parallel world, your partner was very into tennis and was playing, would you be an absolute wreck?
No, I'd be pure competitive though. Like, I'd be like one of the guys, like just standing up every point, like try to annoy like whoever's like my missus' opponent, like try to get under their skin. I'm so competitive. I'm like the most competitive man in the world. I used to like work in an office, and we used to have like quizzes on a Friday, and like I had to have my manager one time say, you need to stop being so competitive. This is just like a never-ending thing. So no, I'd be properly like in their face, like standing up every point and stuff like
You're
that.
going to be one of the fun ones.
Yeah. The camera's always going to me, and Andrew Castle's always going like, look at this tube.
Yeah. Ouch from John. Lack of confidence there.
That's the wine. That's the wine flowing.
Go home, producer. You're drunk.
So
right.
we're on the second semi-final then.
We are, yes.
Sabalenka.
So Jabeur Sabalenka, I'm guessing that you're expecting the Jabeur fairy tale to end.
Yeah, unfortunately for ons, it's just going to be a step too far because, as I say, I just think I know Sabalenka has been semi-finalist in Wimbledon before, so it's not like it's going to be like, overwhelming for her, but I just think like her game when she last played in this event, I think it was maybe 2 years, was it 3 when she got to the semi-final? Mm-hmm. I think she's like, just a 10 times better player than she was then. She's been, on the verge of world number 1, which, is quite an astounding when you follow tennis, and you think just how far, Iga Swiatek was, and I know this is, breaking your heart here, Nick, but, you think we were having discussions at times last year and at times at the start of this year, is this going to be like a decade of domination? Is the women's game going to be boring because this girl Swiatek is just going to dominate everything? Sabalenka has taken the bulls by the horns in 2023. There's been a couple of slips, again, different conditions in Madrid and whatnot, but Sabalenka has been the player of 2023, proving it with the Australian Open. The quarterfinal, the semi-final, was it against Mukova? She'll think that is one that got away. Mukova did great to come back from 5-2 down and win the next 5 games. There might even be a little bit of, wanting to prove a point to doubters by Sabalenka. And the way that she was hitting it, I mean, I've not watched a lot of Sabalenka in this tournament just for one reason or another. I've been watching other ties. But I watched that one in full today, and I was just, like I said to you, I'm sounding like a Sabalenka fanboy here, but, I was very, very impressed. One point of note, Ons Jabeur has obviously got the centre court romance. It's like the one that got, she lost in the final, centre court, love her. That might play a part in it for me. That's the only thing that I can see, I thought it was really weird. I don't know if you watched the Sabalenka, and it's not really been commented online at all. Mm-hmm. But after the match, she was talking, and I just don't know why players have to point out all the time that the crowd were against them. Like, I don't know if it's a charm offensive or if they're thinking that, now these fans will feel sorry for me because I've noticed that they're against me. But she made the point. She was like, even though you guys were against me, like, why make that point? Like, you've won the match, get out of there. And I just thought it was a really bizarre point to make. And I was just sitting there going, is she saying that so that, the next match, the centre court maybe feel sorry for her? Is it a charm offensive? Is it something to try and get them back on side? I just didn't see the point, because some folk will be like, right, and what? Like, it's a tennis match. I just thought it was a really bizarre, like, Medvedev plays up to it. He loves it. He's like, cool, right, I will prove you wrong. You just got this.
I'm not entirely sure he loved it in the Australian Open 2022 final.
You're right. I made that point. Like I said, it went too far, I thought, in that point when we were doing the French. So you make a great point there, Nick. That's why you're on here. But yeah, I just thought it was a bizarre point by Sabalenka. So that's the only thing that I can think, that it's going to be a centre court crowd. They're going to be dead against her in terms of they're going to be supporting Ons Jabeur, maybe not dead against her, but just supporting Jabeur, her opponent. Yeah. And then you've got this, which I thought was going to be the final, but now you've got this pressure. So there may be 2 key factors, but in terms of, if she can reach that level she did today, I think there's no stopping her.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that Sabalenka has been getting better and better throughout this tournament. On paper, she should be the favourite. But I also think that Ons Jabeur has got a point to prove, and she wants to prove it. But she came back against Andreescu. She came back against Rybakina. Interestingly enough, this would also be a grudge match because Sabalenka was the one who knocked her out of 2021 in the quarterfinals.
Okay,
So there's a little bit of like, if she beats Rybakina, she beats Sabalenka, and then she ticks off the Wimbledon final, she's like, we are.
This is complete. Life is complete.
The wrongs of the past.
Because that's a good point, because she did look like this was a revenge match today, Jabeur. Like, it was like, oh, you don't often see it. You sometimes get players saying, oh, no, I'll take every match as it comes, like, oh, the past is the past kind of thing. But, Jabeur did look today as if, I'm right and wrong here. I've got a chip on my shoulder about that loss last year. So you might be right, if she can take that into the Sabalenka match. And, tennis players have long memories, I suppose, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I thought before... Well, actually, no, for sure, the stats would back me up on this. Rybakina hadn't been broken since losing her opening service game of round one. Sabalenka's dropped a few service games, despite looking dominant. Like she obviously lost that first set to Krejcikova. She dropped had a couple of errant service games against Blinkova, despite it being a straightforward win. Keys managed to get a break. If Ons comes out there and is on fire like she was today, and she gets a break, I think she's got the level that she could get a set and capitalize. And then Sabalenka's asking questions.
It's a fair point. I mean, see, just asking that, and this is what I mean by Sabalenka can only beat Sabalenka right now in this event, this tournament. But see those breaks of serves. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but will there not be like net balls thrown in there, double faults, and not generally like forced errors? That a lot of unforced errors. That's usually the way that Sabalenka loses a serve, because she is just so powerful. And today's match, I know we're kind of covered that, but like she just wasn't letting Madison Keys get into the point at all. She was just dominating so much that Madison Keys couldn't even barely get a racket on the ball to allow herself to go, right, okay, I'm going to figure out how to get a point off her. So I agree, and it'd be good if Ons Jabeur can try and take that to her. In terms of, I don't know if you think she's got the power to match her, stride for stride in terms of ground stroke.
No, Ons has the power to hit winners, and she's got the placement to hit winners. We saw that today against Rybakina. We saw that against Kvitova and Andreescu, and throughout her Wimbledon run last time. But I would say if Jabeur wants to get into a slugfest, she's going to lose. But I would say the one thing about Sabalenka's draw is she was playing opponents who wanted to get into slugfests, who were also power players. Keys today, Alexandrova in the fourth round. She had Blinkova as a big hitter as well in round 3. Jabeur is a very different type of player, and I think Sabalenka's going to have to make some adjustments in her game to deal with that, because Jabeur won't just try and hit with her. She's going to throw some crazy things in there, and she's going to pull them off. So I think
she needs to get into her head.
It's going to be a straightforward win at all. If Sabalenka wins, I don't think it's going to be straightforward.
I think Jabeur, she needs to get into her head. I think she needs to get the crowd on side, which, as I said, she will have that early. But I go back to that swagger. The crowd love that kind of thing. She interacts with the crowd. She's animated. She goes for a challenge, and she's like she's making sure that the crowd are involved. And I think that could get to Sabalenka. It clearly bothers her that she's playing on centre court. She is a Grand Slam champion, and it's clearly bothering her. We all know what happened at the French in terms of the press conference and the political side of things. We don't need to go down that route, but it's clearly bothering her. That she can be playing in arenas when she's number 2 in the world and she's not universally loved right now.
I think it's going to be a number of factors that could bother Sabalenka. This is a banana skin match for multiple reasons. And I think, okay, I'm going to say what I'm saying now. What I think is going to happen. Head says Sabalenka, heart says Jabeur, or gut.
Okay. Jabeur, would both of them be in 3 sets?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think we'll go to 3, but I'll just to be disagreeable, as the missus says, doubting Thomas. I will say Sabalenka in 3 then, and we can go with that. So
I think the smart, I would agree that everything on paper should tell you Sabalenka will win. But after Jabeur's win today, and thinking about all these other things, part of me is like, I'm not sure that's a dead cert.
Yeah.
And I think we've had a lot of surprising results this Wimbledon. I wouldn't be surprised if
Sabalenka.
If we have another one, and we have, and I think the most feel-good final would probably be Svitolina versus Jabeur, right? I don't think anyone would know who they'd want to win.
Yeah, no, I know it would be a love fest in that centre court.
Whereas, I am somewhat concerned what could happen if we get a Svitolina Sabalenka final.
As in,
I
you
think
think
that
it
could
would
get
just be
messy.
in terms of
Crowd.
what's. Oh, right, okay.
I think the crowd could get really involved in that one.
Okay. I'm now wanting that one more than ever just to see that.
I am thinking full-on hostility here.
Yeah.
A la Nadal, Medvedev in AO 2022, maybe even Roger Novak 2019. You don't often get that in a women's final.
Yeah, I was going to say that you don't often get that at Wimbledon, though, do you? Like, in terms of the hostility, as you call it. Like, I was seeing somebody. I saw a video recently of one of the women's matches getting stopped, and the umpire having to tell people to stop popping their champagne corks.
Oh yeah,
as people were trying to serve. So I just wondered if you get that hostility at Wimbledon. Maybe you do.
I think even the genteel visitors of Wimbledon still get rowdy after a few.
Yeah, after it's a Saturday afternoon as well, so they'll all be knocking back the pins at 12 o'clock.
Yeah. So but there you go. So there's reasons to. I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Vondrousova because I'm not entirely sure whether anyone wants her in the Wimbledon final.
I know, it's a shame. Everyone's focusing on the other three players, and she's slightly gone under the radar. So fair play to her. What I mean? And she's obviously a talented girl. And as I say, it'll be both semi-finals are really, really intriguing and enthralling. And what time do I have to tune into, Nick?
I don't know what time we're going live, so John's going to need to tell me that before we go live. Otherwise, we could have a problem. I know the match starts at 1:30 p.m. That is Svitolina versus Vondrousova. First up with Jabeur and Sabalenka following. So we'll. I'm sure John will confirm what time the stream starts soon. But in terms of what else you've got to look forward to tomorrow, straight after the women's semi-finals is the mixed doubles final.
Yeah.
Involving.
The Brits didn't get through, did they?
Sorry, no, they didn't. They lost to a very good doubles team of Mate Pavic and Lehana Kitchenok, who are both top 10 doubles players in their own disciplines. And so Kitchenok also looking for Ukrainian success. Pavic, obviously a previous Wimbledon champion in the men's doubles. And they'll be playing Vliegen and Zhu for the honor of being the mixed doubles champions. The men's doubles semi-finals are also happening tomorrow, and they're absolute crackers, by the way, because they're both really top doubles teams. Kravitz and Puitz against Granollers and Zeballos, who I would think of as clay courts. I think they're French Open champions, but they've done really well. And then the Brits are going to get behind Kulhoff and Skupski against Bapana and Ebden. Bapana still going well on into his 40s. Some boy.
Well, lots to look forward to then. We're down to the business end of the third Grand Slam of the year. So I'll be tuning in. Let's kind of keep going until we find a winner of both singles. It's been good.
It's been fantastic. Thanks for coming on with me, Tom.
Sorry, you made my debut last ball drops.
On last ball drops on the last ball drops.
Yes, probably the earliest last ball drops as well, because obviously the matches have been finishing in about 8 o'clock and we started about 6:30. So
we'll probably maybe get you on to talk about the kind of maybe the aftermath of some matches. I'm sure if you're up for commentating on any of the semi-finals or finals, you'll be doing it.
Well, I'll try and pop in tomorrow. I think I may be doing the semi-final, one of the men's semis on Friday. But I'll try and see if I can pop in tomorrow and just say hello and just see what's happening. But I'll be watching. Sometimes it's good to be able to watch and just sit back and just take it all in. So
absolutely.
But listen, have a smashing evening, and thanks very much for today and tonight. All right.
It's been great fun, James. And thanks everyone else for joining. Like and subscribe if you haven't. Tune in for our coverage tomorrow. We will be going live at around 12:30. and we'll see you then. But in the meantime, keep talking tennis.
See you later.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.